Bible study. Pagkatapos po ng prayer, lingin na po natin si Brother June Fuentes para po sa kanyang Bible study sa Book of Revelation. So let us pray po. Amang Diyos na makapangyarihan sa lahat, maraming salamat po sa hapon ito na kami ngayon ay magkakasama, nagkakatipon upang mag-aral po ng inyong mga salita. Iniling po namin, Panginoon Diyos, na kami bigyan nyo sa patakatalinuhan na nagmumula sa inyo upang lahat ng aming pag-aaralan ay tumimo sa aming mga puso't isipan at magamit namin ang mga natutunan sa ikalalago ng aming pananampalataya at sa pang-araw-araw po naming pamumuhay. Niling din po namin na gabayan niyo po ang aming Bible study teacher. Tulungan niyo po siya na may bahagi niya ng buo ng kaalaman yung aklat po na kanya ituturo ngayon, ang aklat ng Book of Revelation. Niling po namin na patawarin kami sa lahat ng aming mga pagkukulang pagkakasala. Ito po aming samot panalangin sa matamis sa pangalan ni Jesus. Amen. Brother June?
Okay, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Muli, nagpapasalamat ako sa Panginoon na binigyan natin ng pagkakataon na makapag-aral sa gabing ito. Medyo matagal-tagal din akong nawala. During that time, nag-travel ako papunta sa Pilipinas, and then na-quarantine ako sa Manila. Dumating ako, umalis ako ng Huwebes eh. And then nag-quarantine ako sa Manila. Nakalis ako ng Manila Monday na ba? Monday night. And then one night sa Baguio sa teachers camp. Tapos ngayon sabi nila kailangan daw mag-quarantine ako uli. So kahit nag-negative ako doon sa swab test ng COVID, pero may protocol pa rin ng Baguio eh. So right now nandito lang ako, nakakulong lang ako dito sa area ng bahay. Para makalabas ako sa town, kinakailangan kumuha ako ng medical certificate, pero makukuha ko lang yung medical certificate after na yung quarantine period ko is ma-satisfy, ma-complete. Kaya for now, okay naman kasi nandito, nasa isang compound kami, so nakakapagturo pa rin ako. Tuloy yung klase namin dito sa Heritage Bible College. At I've been blessed during the travel na naging mapayapa, walang gaanong naging problema at nakarating ako ng matiwasay dito sa Baguio. So tuloy po tayo dito sa lesson natin, dito sa Book of Revelation. Since sabi ko kanina medyo matagal-tagal akong nawala. So ang gagawin natin, ang lesson natin by the way is sa chapter 6. Pero bago tayo dumako sa lesson natin, magbalik-aral tayo doon sa mga napag-usapan na natin. So sa chapter 1 ng Book of Revelation, makita natin si John. Si John was nasa island of Patmos siya, exile, nakakulong sa island of Patmos. Pero he had a vision and he was taken in spirit sa ibang lugar, hindi doon sa island of Patmos. At dito sa chapter 1, yung first vision na ibinigay sa kanya. At dito sa first vision na ibinigay sa kanya, makita natin dito na binigyan siya ng vision para sa mga bagay-bagay na isusulat niya sa 7 churches of Asia. Sabi natin na yung 7 churches of Asia dito are real location, yung 7 cities, real churches, yung 7 churches. At, so hindi siya figurative. At itong letter niya is a real letter sa real na experience nitong mga Kristiyano sa 7 churches of Asia Minor. So yung vision niya, he saw, ang sabi niya rito, I saw 7 stars which in my right hand, and the 7 golden lampstands, and 7 stars are angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. So sa pag-aaral natin ng Book of Revelation, maraming mga symbols. Pero you could break down yung meaning ng mga symbols na iyon into several categories. Ang isa doon sa categories na iyon is may mga symbols na binigyan ng explanation kung ano yung mga symbols na yon dito mismo sa Book of Revelation, and many of them right after. So you just have to continue reading whether in the same verse or in the following verses, at malalaman natin kung ano yung meaning, ano yung explanation doon sa symbol na yon. At ang isa roon is itong seven lampstand. So he saw sa vision niya, nakita siya ng seven lampstand, pero binigay din yung explanation. Ang sabi, yung seven lampstand are seven churches. So isa yon sa pamamaraan kung paano natin maintindihan yung napakaraming mga symbols dito. At ang isa nga, dahil ibinigay mismo kung ano yung meaning, ano yung explanation sa text mismo. Okay? So isa yun, tandaan natin yan habang nagpapatuloy tayo ng pag-aaral. So iyan yung unang vision. Sa verses, sa chapter 2 and 3, doon naman napapalood yung seven churches, specific na letter sa bawat isa doon sa mga churches. You could consider this as a letter, as an epistle. Lahat ng quality ng isang letter ay nandito sa may iksing letters na ito. So individually, at doon sa mga letters na yun, makikita natin mayroong greetings, at mayroong recommendation, ay mayroong commendation, at mayroon ding condemnation. And then mayroong exhortation, at kung ano, may salutation, at kung ano yung kinakailangan nilang gawin. And doon sa commendation nila, all but one church have commendation. May mabubuti silang ginagawa. Pagdating naman sa condemnation, all but one church, mayroong condemnation. At doon sa condemnation nila, there are things that they have to do. Basically, they have to repent. They have to change their ways. At mayroong reward. If they do that, they will be rewarded. And yung exhortation sa bawat isa sa kanila, itong interesting day, itong sinasabi dito na he who has ear to hear, let him hear. They need to hear the message. Pero yung word na hear dito, hindi lang sa yung you have to listen, kundi you have to hear, to heed, to do kung ano yung sinabi sa kanila. And then sa chapter 4, makikita naman natin dito na ito na yung start ng second vision. Si John was taken again in the spirit. At dito sa vision niya ito, nakita niya yung throne. Yun ang nakita niya rito. Makita niya yung great throne. Doon sa great throne scene na yun, yung ang Diyos, God, is seen seating in the throne. Ang ibig sabihin noon is that God is in control. That is very important vision and message para dito sa seven churches. Because itong seven churches, the reason they are being written to is dahil they were facing persecution, they are experiencing persecution at the moment, but they are going to experience a more severe persecution in the near future. And of all the things that itong letter na ito is to encourage them to remain faithful, and there's no other thing that could encourage them to remain faithful other than knowing that God, their God, is sitting in the throne in control of the situation. So yun ang vision ni John at yun ang isinulat niya dito sa seven churches. God is sitting in the throne. It's a great throne scene. And then sa chapter 5, makikita natin na there is a message of hope para dito sa seven churches, pero yung message niya, yung scroll na kung nasaan na papaloob yung message is sealed with seven seal. And they look around, wala silang makita kung sino ang worthy to open up the seal, to break the seal. Pero may good news dahil ang good news is mayroong isa na worthy to open the seal. Nalulungkot na nga si John kasi walang pwedeng mag-open. Pero then, meron palang worthy. At itong person who is worthy to open the seal is, ang sabi niya rito, the lion. The lion that is from the tribe of Judah. I'm reading from chapter 5, verse 5 of Revelation. The lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seal. Okay, so sino tong lion? Giveaway to na coming from tribe of Judah, na who is called as the root, that came from the root of David. Galing sa lineage ng king, you know? At ang sabi doon sa Genesis chapter 49, when Jacob was giving yung blessing sa mga anak niya sa 12 tribes, to Judah, the scepter was given. And the scepter is not going to depart the tribe of Judah, meaning yung lineage ng king would come from the tribe of Judah. At dito sa verse 6, ang sabi sa pagpapatuloy, a further description of this individual, this being who is worthy to open the 7 seals. Ang sabi niya rito, and I saw between the throne and with the 4 living creatures and the elders a lamb standing as if slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are 7 spirit of God sent out into the earth. So itong lamb who was slain, so sino yung lion of Judah? Sino yung root of David, nanggaling sa root of David? Sino yung lamb that was slain? It's a description of the Christ, the Messiah. So the Messiah, Christ, is worthy to open up the seal. So my hope, finally, itong good news message na napapaloob doon sa scroll could now be open and be known, be read, so that they'll know kung ano yung content nitong scroll na ito. Ang chapter 6 then, which is going to be the focus of our discussion tonight, is finally, the seals are going to be open. Okay? So, ito yung seal dito sa chapter 6. Makikita natin, mababasa natin yung first na 7 seals. Okay. So let's read itong yung first seal sa verses 1 and 2. Ito sabi, then I saw when the Lamb broke one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying as with a voice of thunder, come. Now, let's pause and balik-aral lang, review of the 4 living creatures. Ano itong 4 living creatures? First time na nabasa natin itong 4 living creatures sa chapter 4, verse 6. Ito ang sabi niya, and before the throne, again, yung throne where God is sitting, there was something like a sea of glass, like crystal, and in the center and around the throne, 4 living creatures. So, yun, doon natin unang nakita itong 4 living creatures, full of eyes in front and behind. The first creature was like a lion, and the second creature like a calf. The third creature had a face like that of a man, and the fourth creature was like a flying eagle. Now, here's a second rule pagdating sa interpretation nitong mga symbols sa Book of Revelation. Ang first, I'm taking my time to restate itong mga how do we understand itong mga symbols. Dahil very important, dahil napakaraming mga symbols. Pero para hindi tayo mahilo, this is one way to study kung ano yung meaning ng mga symbols. Ang una nga, nabanggit natin kanina, na alam natin kung ano ang meaning ng mga symbols kasi sinabi. In the same verse or in the following verses, ibinigay yung explanation kung ano yung meaning ng symbol. Tulad noong 7 lampstand, ang sabi, 7 churches. Ngayon, itong ang second na principle in knowing or interpreting kung ano yung meaning nitong mga symbols na ito, katulad dito sa four living creatures. Itong four living creatures, nabanggit din to sa Ezekiel. At pag binasa mo sa Ezekiel 1 through 10, yung description doon ng four living creatures, saka itong description ng four living creatures dito sa Revelation chapter 4, parehas na parehas. Okay? At doon sa Ezekiel, pinangalanan o dinescribe kung ano yung four living creatures. Hindi lang na dito nakasabi, the first creature looked like a lion. The second looked like a calf. The third looked like, has a face that of a man. And then the fourth looked like a flying eagle. So hindi lang yung itsura, kundi ano. Doon sa Ezekiel again, pinangalanan, ang sabi sila yung mga cherubim, mga warriors. Yung mga cherub, sila yung nagbabantay. Katulad sa Garden of Eden. Ano? So angels, itong four living creatures, as we could learn from the book of Ezekiel. Okay, so balik tayo rito. So para every time na mabasa natin itong four living creatures, pwede natin maisip, so ano na nga yung four living creatures? Yun. They are angels, pero we found out that they are angels dahil parallel yung description ng four living creatures doon sa Ezekiel. So that's a second way of knowing kung ano ang meaning nitong mga symbols, and that is kung nabanggit na yung symbol na yun sa ibang part ng Bible, especially sa Old Testament, at parehas, then kung ano yung interpretation doon, ano yung binigay na explanation, yun ang pinakamalapit na interpretation natin dito sa mga symbols na nabanggit sa Revelation. Okay, nagamit na. Ang ibig sabihin, hindi na bago yung symbols na yun as far as the Bible is concerned, especially from the Old Testament. Nabanggit din natin noon na marami sa mga symbols na ginamit dito sa Revelation are found in Daniel and Ezekiel. At yung iba sa ibang parte ng Old Testament. Okay, tuloy tayo. Babasahin ko ulit from the top dahil 2 verses lang naman itong first seal na ito. Itong Bible study pala natin hanggang 6, Hanggang 6, so may 30 minutes pa tayo. Then I saw when the Lamb broke one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying, as with a voice of thunder, sabi niya, come. I look and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering to conquer. Okay, so ang ginagawa natin dito sa pag-aaral natin para hindi tayo masyadong ma-overwhelm doon sa mga symbols, we try to get the main message first. Either ng passage, so in this case, itong 2 verses na ito. Okay? Dahil dito, ano na naman ang nakita natin dito na figurative term, white horse. Okay? Somebody sitting on a white horse. And then he has a bow, he has a crown. So, ano ba yung mga bagay na yon? So, bago natin banggitin yon, again, itong dito sa 7 seal are supposed to be good news. Message of good news para dito sa 7 churches. So, ano ang good news na makikita natin dito sa first seal na ito? It's a picture of a warrior, okay? A Parthian warrior. At itong warrior na ito, he is going to conquer. Ibig sabihin din, he is going to win. Yun yung message dito. Okay, so ang question na lang natin is, sino yung nakasakay sa white horse at ano yung significance ng bow saka ng crown when it comes to him being a conqueror. Okay. So, the one who's sitting on the white horse is, describe muna natin yan. Sa 19, sa chapter 19 nitong Revelation, Buksan ko lang yung chapter. Punta ako doon sa chapter 19. Ano? Itong conqueror na ito is no other than Christ. Ano? Itong conqueror na nakasakay dito sa white horse na ito. And so madali na natin maintindihan. And that's the third way of understanding kung ano yung meaning ng figurative language speech dito sa Revelation. At yung third na principle is that malalaman natin yung meaning niya in other parts of the book of Revelation dahil ni-reveal kung ano yung meaning in other parts. Yung kanina sabi natin in the same verse or in the following verses sinabi yung explanation. Pero yung ibang mga figurative language dito, malalaman natin kung ano yun, kung sino dito rin sa book of Revelation pero much later na study. Tulad dito sa rider ng white horse dito, no? So after na malaman natin na it symbolizes victory. Na magiging victorious overcomer itong rider ng white horse. So yun ang pinaka-importante. And malaman natin na yung rider ng white horse is no other than Christ. Then kung ano yung meaning noong ano ba horse, bakit white, bakit ano ang significance ng bow, ano ang significance ng crown. So iyon parang secondary na lang. Ginaganto ko lang yung pag-aaral natin para ang gusto kong sabihin, hindi tayo masyadong ma-overwhelm doon sa mga iba't ibang mga figurative language dito. Dahil madali na siyang intindihin at madali at hindi natin mamimiss yung pinaka-main message pag doon muna tayo nag-focus bago natin intindihin itong mga secondary kung ano yung mga meaning, significance itong mga kulay, mga items na nabanggit dito. Pero yung white would always means purity, holiness, victory. Di ba? Iyon ang stand itong color na ito. At maalala ko nga pala, before yung start ng study natin, may pinadala akong handout sa inyo patungkol doon sa mga yung typical na meaning ng mga numbers saka mga colors. Ano? Itong bow na ito, so obviously, doon sa halimbawa sa Psalms chapter 45, 2 and 7 sa iba pang mga verses, you compare that with Hebrews chapter 3. Itong idea ng bow has something to do with truth and humility and righteousness, which means na if you have a bow, you shoot with your mighty hand. Something to do with the mighty hand. The one sitting on the white horse, he has a mighty hand. So if you're looking for explanation, how could he conquer? How could he be victorious? Because he has a strength in his arm. Iyon ang description ng somebody who has yung ability to shoot arrow from bow. Kinakailangan malakas yung kamay mo, no? And then sabi niya, is wearing a crown. Okay? Itong crown dito, hindi siya diadem na iyong parang crown ng royalty, kundi it's more of yung crown ng victorious, yung winner, yung conqueror. Yung wreath na crown. So ito yung, it talks about yung character. Again, we're going to read more about this person sitting on a white horse pagdating natin sa chapter 9 ng book of Revelation. We mentioned pag may time kayo at may kopya kayo ng PowerPoint, balik-balikan niya kasi may ang isa sa PowerPoint natin doon slide is yung picture na chiastic structure. At ang sabi natin, the way yung literal style ni John in writing the book of Revelation is yung chiastic structure, which follow yung form ng first part ng letter na X o yung parang greater sign, at yung main na message nasa gitna, which will be found in chapter 12 and 14. Pero yung mayroon siyang parallel na statement sa statement A sa taas, and then statement B, statement A din ulit dito sa which is parallel statement sa dulo. Kaya ang parallel statement itong chapter 6 na ito is nasa chapter 19. Kaya doon sa chapter 19, we'll read about basically the same individual, the same person who's riding the white horse. So it would help us, kaya inuulit-ulit ko itong style of writing, kasi it would help us to understand the book of Revelation, kasi parang by pair siya pair siya. Pag hindi mo naintindihan yung statement sa A, then you go to yung matching, yung parallel na chapters niya, and then you get more information about kung ano yung sinabi. Okay? Because it's the same idea, it's restated in a different way. So magkakaroon ka ng clue, magkakaroon ka ng idea. So, ano ang first seal? Ang first seal is about yung conquering, sabi dito. The rider ng white horse is going to be that of the winner, And then, next is itong second seal. The second seal tayo. Ang second seal, verses 3 hanggang 4. Sa second seal naman, makita natin, kung rider ng white horse ang makita natin doon sa first seal, dito sa second seal, when he broke the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come." And another, a red horse, so hindi na siya white horse, went out. To him who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from the earth, and that men would slay one another, and a great sword was given to him. Wow. So ito yung sa second seal. So itong sa second seal, it reveals the enemy. Ito yung persecutor. He is riding on a red horse. So itong red horse na ito, danger siya, no? The red is a color of blood, of war, of danger. You could compare this later on. We'll compare it with chapter 12 and chapter 13. Sa chapter 12 verse 3, ginamit uli yung word na red, pero dinescribe doon yung red na dragon, who is Satan. So yung word na red dito has something to do with blood, with war. Dito rin sa 17, 3, sabi niya, he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet. Yung scarlet, yung kulay ng scarlet is also red. A scarlet beast, full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Again, so, ang point lang natin dito is itong red, which is the color of the horse, the color of the dragon, the color of the beast. Dito sa Book of Revelation, they were all related sa wars, sa danger, sa enemy. Okay. With all this signs and symbols, figurative language that we're talking about, in your mind, you could picture may dalawang category, good and bad, good and evil. So, pag may nakita kang ganito, isipin mo lang, okay, so this fall under doon sa good, meaning on the side of God, or doon sa bad, on the side of Satan. So, itong red, ito ang key natin dito, kasi the same horse eh. So, if the white signifies purity, so on the side of God. So, yung red naman, the 3 times it was used in the book of Revelation, lahat sila nakaalay sa kalaban. Okay, so yun ang sabi dito. Yung rider dito ng red horse, sabi niya rito, went out, okay, and to him who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from the earth, and the men slay one another. Okay. He was given power to take peace from the earth, so taken peace from the earth. So nawala yung peace. He was given power to make men slay each other, and then given a great sword. So again, it signifies war. Okay. Ito yung picture, makikita natin dito, yung picture ng bloodshed. So, and yung war has been a part of man's history from since Cain killed Abel. So since then until the time of the writing and even now, makita natin na yung blood, yung war, it becomes part of, sadly, becomes part of human history. So, what I'd like to point out here is that even yung rider ng white horse, makita natin na he was given itong key to take away peace, to make people slay each other. He was given a great sword. And ma-highlight yung man's warlike nature in action. Don't forget, please don't forget. And ito yung message sa 7 churches, the one who sits on the throne. It did not change kung sino ang nakaupo sa throne. Ang nakaupo sa throne is still God. Okay? So, what you are seeing right now dito sa vision na ito, which is yung message sa kanila na yes, yung first na seal, makita mo doon yung rider ng white horse, si Christ, and he is conquering. Pero yung second seal, makita mo ang rider is yung rider ng red horse na nasa side naman siya ni Satanas. And in the time being, he was given the power, he was given a great sword, he was given the power to take peace and for people to fight each other. Okay. Now, the third seal, ang third seal is, ang sabi dito, when he broke the third seal, I heard the third living creature saying, come. Okay. Look and behold, this time a black horse. And he sat on it, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard something like a voice in the center of the 4 living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for the denarius and 3 quarts of barley for the denarius, and do not damage the oil and wine. Okay. Itong black seal na ito represents yung mourning and distress. Okay, so ito picture ito ng economic description which talks about famine. So basically, it's talking about famine and economic hardship. So ito yung sabi dito, Ang sabi niya, yung quart of wheat for a denarius. So napakamahal. Quart of wheat lang denarius. Isang denarius. Ano? And 3/4 of barley for a denarius. And damage oil and wine. And do not damage the oil and wine. So lahat ito, picture ng, nangyayari ito, nagtumataas ang presyo ng bilihin during famine. Again, law of supply and demand. Pag konti ang supply, mataas ang demand, mahal. So, para very basic siya dito, parang economic yung figure of speech na binanggit dito has something to do with economic. Dahil yung kabuuan nga nito, itong black horse na ito, makita natin dito, signifies yung famine. There is going to be hardship. Magkakaroon ng hardship. So, medyo bibilisan ko kasi gusto ko at least matapos natin itong chapter 6. Yung fourth seal. Yung fourth seal, when the Lamb broke the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, "Come." I look and behold as ashen horse, okay? And who sat on it? The name had the name Death. Sabi niya dito. And Hades was following him. Authority was given to them over the fourth of the earth to kill with sword and with famine and with pestilence and by the wild beast of the earth. Okay? So, pale, maputla itong fourth na horse, and it signifies death. Okay, yung fifth sa verses 9 to 11. When the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw underneath the altar the soul of those who have been slain because of the word of God and because of the testimony which they had maintained. And they cried out with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, will you refrain from judging and avenging our blood on those who dwelt on the earth?" And there was given to each of them a white robe, and they were told, a white robe, okay, they were given, nasaan ako? 11, white robe, and they were told that they should rest for a little while longer until the number of their fellow servant and their brethren who were to be killed, even as they have been, would be completed also. Okay? So, itong fifth seal na ito, ang makikita natin dito is that yung souls of the martyrs, the Christian martyrs, under the altar, the altar crying for vindication of their cause. Ang sabi sa verse 9, itong souls of itong mga martyr under the altar, they were slain. So mga namatay na, ano? Because of the persecution. Namatay na because of yung persecution under the altar. Itong significance ng under the altar. Itong sa Old Testament, sa sacrificial system, yung altar, ang winiwisik doon sa altar, sa baba ng altar, under the altar, is yung blood, ano? Yung blood ng animal sacrifice. Dito, ginamit yung picture na yun, yung illustration na yun, na yung altar, ang makita mo doon yung soul. So, perhaps representing doon sa mga namatay. At ito na dito, slain. So, pero mayroong Old Testament picture. Similar dahil yung blood ang ini-sprinkle doon sa base ng altar. Okay. So, ang mayroon silang important na question, sabi nila, how long? Ang sabi nila sa verse 10, ano? For yung retribution nila, yung vengeance, so that they will be vindicated, yung pagkamatay nila. Ang sagot sa kanila is you have to wait. You have to wait. They have to wait for, pero they were given a reward, ano, white robe. Nabasa na natin yung white robe na ito doon sa chapter 3 verse 4, di ba? Isa sa mga churches, yun ang sabi sa kanila, they will be given white robe doon sa overcomer from the Church of Sardis. White robe din ang ginamit. And then sa chapter 19 ulit. Again, ang parallel, halos parallel na discussion itong chapter 6 na ito nasa chapter 19. So doon mababasa natin ulit na yung sa yung white robe, ano? Tingnan nga natin itong 19. 19 verse 8. So instead ng white robe, ang ginamit dito is 7. Let us rejoice and be glad and give the glory to him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come and his bride has made herself ready. So yung bride dito, si Christ, ano? Yung Lamb married to his bride, so Christ and the church. So 8. It was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean. For the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. Okay, so yung white robe dito, instead na ginamit yung term na white robe, ang suot daw is fine linen, bright and clean. And then, binigyan din tayo ng explanation kung ano yung fine linen na yun. Ang sabi niya, yung righteous acts of the saints. So sabi niya dito, ano ang reward niyo? You will be given white robe. Okay? And yung rest nila, they are to rest dahil yung vindication is coming. Pero ang sinabi din sa kanila, yung persecution is not yet over. Parang nakakalungkot na sabi mo, okay, more are going to die. Pero in the meantime, sila na nasa underneath na noong altar, they are to rest. So again, yung fifth seal, ang nakita natin doon, are souls under the altar crying how long? Yung cry ng vindication nila, they were told to wait. They will be vindicated in due time. Ibig sabihin, the evil are going to be punished. Okay? And then yung sixth na seal. Yung seal ng ano na yung sabi natin sa fifth seal, yung soul under the altar. Itong sixth seal na ito sa 12 hanggang 17, pero ito yung katapusan. I looked then and he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black of sackcloth made of hair. The full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth, as a fig tree casts its unripe figs when shaken by a great wind. And the sky was split apart like a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Then the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders and the rich and the strong and every slave and free man hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks and mountains. And they said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand. So, yung sixth seal talks about terror. Yung sixth seal talks about the day of Jehovah. Sa Old Testament especially, pag nabanggit yung day of the Lord or day of Jehovah, it has something to do with judgment. It's not always yung end of the world kasi especially pag binasa mo yung minor prophets, malimit doon nabanggit yung day of the Lord, which means yung coming judgment. God, the Jehovah is coming in judgment to judge a nation. So it's not always na ibig sabihin end of the world na yung day of the Lord. It means that God is going to come. Jehovah is coming in judgment to judge a nation to judge Israel, ano? Being judged by God, and in this case, to judge itong enemy ng church. They were asking for vindication. This is the day of the Lord. This is the day of Jehovah, the day of vindication. Kaya ang sabi niya rito, sa 17, again, ang sabi niya, and they said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne. So who is going to come in judgment and who's going to judge them? It's the one who sits on the throne. And from the wrath of the Lamb. And who is the Lamb? The Lamb is the one opening the seal. Diba? The one worthy of opening the seal. Specifically, this is verse 7 and chapter 6. When the Lamb broke the fourth seal. So, and 9, when the Lamb broke the fifth seal. So it's the Lamb who is disclosing this what's going to happen in the future. But it's also the Lamb who's going to bring judgment, meaning si Christ, who's going to bring judgment to these people. The great day is coming. They are going to be judged. So, i-conclude natin, kung ang pinag-usapan dito is yung 7 churches, they are being persecuted, and so yung enemy nila who is persecuting them is going to be judged. So not necessarily yung end of the world ang pinag-uusapan dito, kundi yung judgment upon their enemies. Diba? Sino ang nagpe-persecute sa kanila during this time? Itong time ng writing, it's the Roman Empire. Okay, so that we'll talk more about that later on. Pero we need to understand this in context. We need to understand this as a message doon sa seven churches. So let's wrap this up. Lessons chapter 6. Ito sa chapter 6, makikita natin na ito yung message, ito yung mangyayari. Ang mangyayari is that in-open yung first seal, in-open yung second seal, yung third seal, yung fourth seal, yung fifth seal, yung sixth na seal. Yung sa first seal, makita natin yung rider sa white horse. And he is going to conquer. Okay? Pero yung sa second, there will be war. Sa third, there will be famine. Sa fifth, there will be death. Sa fifth, there will be martyrs, souls under the altar, dead, slain. And then, but on the sixth seal, there is going to be a terror. Pero yung terror na yun is the coming judgment on the enemy of the people of God. Okay? So, how could this be a good news? Ito na yung sinasabi natin na they are being told there is persecution, some of them are going to die, and some more are going to die, pero there is a coming judgment. And God is going to judge the enemy. They will be vindicated. What is the worst thing that could happen to them? And this is the message I'd like to leave with you. What is the worst case scenario? Dito sa makita natin, the worst case scenario is war. Is the worst case scenario famine? Is the worst case scenario death? Or the worst case scenario is, yes, death. The worst case scenario is that they're going to die. That's bad, pero this is, let's listen to the point I'm trying to make. The worst case scenario is that the enemy could kill them and will kill them. Some of them, many of them. But if the enemy do that, if they are faithful, then they will find themselves under the throne of God in heaven, sabi niya rito. Or yung they will be saved. So so yung pag-uwi nila, ito yung sinasabi ko sa noong last time, yung pag-uwi nila, the worst thing that the enemy could do to them is mapapadali yung reward nila. Mas mapapadali lang sa kanila. Yes, it is sad that they will die, Pero that also means na yung pag-uwi nila will be expedited. So if you really think about it, it's not really a bad news. Kahit yung bad news is still a good news. Para dito sa mga saints, para dito sa mga martyr na to. And again, in spite of all of this, na sinasabing pwedeng na mangyayari, it's still God. God is still the one who sits on the throne. He is still in control. In the time being, yes, itong kampon ng kasamaan ni Satanas would reign, pero only in a short period of time. The worst thing that could happen to them is that they'll get rewarded. They just have to wait. But they will be rewarded in the end, and the enemy will be punished. Yun lang po ang lesson natin. Magandang gabi muli sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Brother June, for clarification sa Seven Seals. Ano? Magandang na pag-aralan din po natin to kasi may mga narinig din tayo before na they using this as sinasabi nila na ito yung ganito yung mangyayari sa Judgment Day. And take note mga kapatid, no, na-clarify that this happened, no, during the persecutions ng mga early Christians, no. And sabi nga na laging pinapaalala sa atin ni Brother June, no, wag tayong lumabas doon sa context, no. We all know na ang pinag-uusapan dito is the Christians, no, doon sa seven churches of Asia, Asia Minor, yung sinulatan ni John, and then makikita natin yung persecutions na kanilang mararanasan and the redemption na niready ng Diyos para sa kanila. And I remember din na may mga kapatid, I don't know kung mga kapatid, basta narinig ko din na they also relate this doon sa destruction of Jerusalem, no, na may mga na merong part nito ay nangyari doon, no. Pero thank you, Brother John, for clarifying that. And mga kapatid, I pray and hope na lahat tayo ay naunawaan natin itong seven seal, no, na wag tayong, kapag mababasa natin ito, wag tayong mangangamba or wag natin even gamitin or gamitin yung mga verses na ito para isabihin natin or takutin natin yung mga tao na yung destruction of Jerusalem, yung Judgment Day. And nabanggit din dito yung mga horse, ano, yung red horse, yung pale horse, yung sitting on the white robe, yung white horse, no, na naka-white robe na makita natin, ano. And may mga, sabi nga natin kanina, may mga tao na ginagamit nila ito as to refer doon sa Judgment Day, kaya mas natatakot, no, yung iba. And nabanggit din dito yung cosmic, no, yung cosmic disturbance, yung may mga lindol, no. Meron sana ako itatanong kaso wala na tayong time. 6:04 na. Sige,
Itanong mo lang